For tonight's video, I thought it might be interesting to have a look at a little bit of the reason why one needs something more than just a faithful representation of reality to be able to do something useful with one's mind. I mentioned this a little bit in the previous video, but that one needs to have a separate representation of reality, if one wants to think of it as a representation of reality in one's mind, and a prediction machine. And these two things need to be kept separate in order to be useful. And one of the ways to sort of get to grips with why that might be necessary has got to do with what I'll call the paradox of reason. And it's a sort of a logical conundrum that one can think about. When you're doing logic and really basic logic, basically you're dealing with propositions, statements that are true or false. So you might say the statement, it's snowing outside, to be either a true or a false statement. And if you're using only logic, you're basically dealing with statements like that and some connectives. So you might say, it's snowing outside and the cat is sleeping on the bed. And by evaluating those statements and the connectives, so the truth value of the statements and the truth value of the connectives and the truth value of the combined statement, you can come up with new truth values. But essentially, the entire, one can think of it like a grid of values that one can create. So for example, out of those two statements, you can create it is snowing outside and it is snowing outside and the cat is sleeping on the bed, or the cat is sleeping on the bed. So that would be a valid conclusion to reach using just logical connectives and those two statements that we know. But one might note from that sort of thing that it's more like a blocky, rigid grid of conclusions that one can reach. So we can't, for example, use those sorts of statements to reach something in between, like the cat is sleeping on the bed because it is snowing outside. There's no logical way to get from our initial two statements and our possible logical connectives and that new statement, the cat is sleeping on the bed because it is snowing outside. So in order to reach new insights like that, we can't use logic. Logic sort of restricts us. It gives us a very strict grid of where we can get to. And causal statements like that is not one of those places that we can get to on the basis of statements like that. So it leaves us with this conundrum, the paradox of reason, that if we remain strictly logical, we can never really gain any new knowledge in the strict sense. And the counterpart to that is that if we gain new knowledge, we can never say that new knowledge was gained on the basis of strict logic. Now we'll have a little discussion about what that means, what that strict logic means, and the consequences of the sort of very, very bounded nature of that strict knowledge. One of the ways out of this conundrum was thought to be that there might be some sort of way to connect that strict set of logical rules to some sort of generative process. And initially it was thought that mathematics might be that generative process, that one could connect strict logical principles to mathematical principles. And if one could do that, well, then you would be able to generate, I mean, the way that mathematics can generate new numbers and new structures in numbers. So if one could do that, it would be an amazingly powerful tool. As we'll discover, though, turns out you can't. And not only can't you do that with mathematics, but you can't do that with anything that is more expressive than that strict form of logic. So in terms of trying to have a faithful, logical representation of reality, and be able to do anything useful with it, the strict answer is no, you cannot. There needs to be something else going on, and this is basically the role that I've sort of given the prediction machine here. So that's just a very sort of a broad survey of how that comes about. We'll look a little bit more in detail about this conundrum and ways that people have thought of getting around it and trying to solve it, which is a really fascinating story, really. But I'll just leave that I'll just leave that there for now. I think that's enough for tonight. Great. Cheers.